Good day, everyone. So today we're going to have our continuation for the methods of data collections. For the first of the three different ways of data collection, we are going to have interviews. Under interviews, we're going to have in-person interviewing, telephone interviewing, online interviewing, mailed questionnaire, and focus groups. So for the in-person interviewing, so that is the face-to-face question and answer. This is preferred for qualitative research because it has excellent response rates. It enables you to conduct interviews that take you a longer amount of time. It you have a follow-up questions. You can easily ask your follow-up questions to responses that are not clear. For the disadvantages, um, it's quite expensive because you travel going to your interviewee. You're going to provide remuneration, among others. Now, the access to some areas of population, such as neighborhood prone to crime, cannot be accessed, which may result into biases. For telephone interviewing, so this requires you calling to respondents over the phone and asking them your questions. So this is quicker as compared to the face-to-face interview. It is cheaper than the face-to-face interviewing. And the disadvantage is that since you don't see the face of your interviewee, the trustworthy of the respondents is at question. And then we have a limited amount of time or data that can be collected on a phone interview. Now for the online interviewing, the researchers sent an email inviting respondents to participate in an online survey. So I think you're familiar with this in terms of Google Forms and Microsoft Forms. So for the advantages, we have low cost, high volume way of interviewing. At small amount of time, you can gather 500 respondents. Another advantage is that it is anonymously. You can ask your questions anonymously. So if you can ask your questions anonymously, sensitive topics can be asked and you're going to gather the correct or the sincere answers. For the disadvantage, you're not getting the representative of the sample. No clarification on unclear responses. Since your respondents are anonymous, you cannot have a backup question. For the mailed questionnaire, researchers send printed questionnaire to the postal address of the respondents. The participants fill in the questionnaire and mail it back. For the advantage, you obtain the information that the respondents may be unwilling to give when interviewing a person. For the disadvantage, you have low response rate, delays or loss of mail, low literacy may inhibit clarifications on responses. Next would be focus groups. So for the focus groups, the researchers identify a group of 6 to 10 people with similar characteristics. A moderator then guides discussion to identify attitudes and experiences of the group. The responses are captured via video recording, voice recording, or jotting it down via writing. This is the data that you will analyze to answer your research questions. So it's basically like a meeting, a focus group discussion, brainstorming. Advantages, fewer resources and time, and you may ask clarifications to unclear responses. For the disadvantage, the sample selected may not represent the population accurately, and dominant participants can influence the responses of the others. Now let's go to observational research design. So this is another data gathering technique using observations. So there are four types of observational methods that are available to you as a researcher. We have cross-section or cross-sectional research design. So what you do is to collect the data on observed relationships once. The advantage is that it is cheaper and it is taking less time versus case control and cohort. Time factor is being disregarded. So you, over the period of time, you select a cross section, you select a certain amount of time wherein you're going to gather your data. For the second one, you have your case control. For the case control, the researcher creates cases and controls and observes them. A case has been exposed to a phenomenon of interest while control has not. After identifying the cases and controls, the researcher moves back in time to observe how your event of interest occurs in the two groups. This is why case control studies are referred to as retrospective. So what happens is you're going to gather the data now and then you ask your respondent, do you belong to group A or to group B? So based on history, based on historical data, were you a subject of group A or group B? Do you belong to private school in high school? Do you belong to public school in high school? So you do a retrospect, you do a recall of your category. So as an example, a medical researcher suspects a certain type of cosmetic is causing skin cancer. You recruit people who have used a cosmetic, the cases, and those who have not used the cosmetic, the controls. You request participants to remember the type of cosmetic and the frequency of its use. Advantage, it's cheaper and less time versus cohort method. Disadvantage, it relies on the respondent's memory or the recall bias. The third of the four methods is the cohort. So what you do here is you follow your respondents over a period of time. So this is time consuming. So the researcher follow people with similar characteristics over a period. The advantage, you're going to collect the data on occurrence that happen over a long period. While for the disadvantage, it's quite costly and requiring more time because you follow your respondents over a period of time. The last of the four observational data collection method is ecological. So when researchers are more interested in studying a particular population instead of individuals. So we're studying the effect of the environment to the individuals. So say you are interested in lung cancer rates in Manila and Cebu. You obtain number of cancer rates in Manila and Cebu. So you obtain the number of cancer cases per 1,000 people for each city and compare them. You can then hypothesize possible causes of differences between the two cities. Advantage, it saves time and money because the data is already available. Disadvantage, this may lead you to infer population relationships that does not exist. Next is the experimental research design.